this is all about alignment and being aligned to sell. And we want to sell without selling our soul. We want to actually sell from an authentic place, and we want to be natural. We want to sell from the heart, because that's the way that we enroll clients. We enroll clients by being more of us and not by being more pushy or more aggressive. How many of you have ever been in an aggressive sales conversation, right? Where somebody was really trying to get something, and that is something that I personally hate. And I think that is the old way of the car salesman kind of way, right? Where, they just, come at you, right? Really aggressive. And there's actually a lot of people still having that approach. And whenever you're starting to bring up objections, the more aggressive they will become. And actually the opposite is much more productive. Whenever somebody, and we will get to the objections later on, but whenever someone has objections, that's the beautiful moment to actually lean in and listen, right? Because that's not the moment to talk more, but the moment to listen more and to ask more questions and to explore what is really behind some of the objections, right? And actually knowing more about someone really gives you much more leverage than just talking, right? So a little bit about why I'm qualified to share this today is that I've been in sales for more than 18 years, and I started in sales immediately after being in university. So I was actually hired by a Dutch family-owned business. And I was sent to Hong Kong to build the brand for a homeware company. And I did that for 6 years, and I was made responsible for the entire Asia Pacific region, where I was overseeing a number of importers or distributors. And I was responsible from Mongolia to New Zealand, from Japan to Vietnam. And it was a very, very interesting dynamic. And what I really learned there is I learned to sell across countries, across cultures, and across currencies, right? So one thing that I really notice is that people, they don't buy pressure, right? So that comes back to the more you, and I found that because I was literally, we had this beautiful sheet, and on this sheet was actually what was on the sheet was everything that they had not bought. So it was like an overview of our entire portfolio of products, of the things that they bought, and it had a number in it with how many units they had, right? And it also had all the opportunities there of the products that they did not buy, right? So every meeting we were, it was on the agenda to talk about the things that they did not buy. And I remember that was one of the most tedious conversations I've ever had. It was the most tedious conversation because immediately when we brought in the card and I printed it out, it was nicely in color, you could see some resistance, and I could feel the resistance. Here we go again. This is another guy who's trying to make sure that we have everything and they're selling everything to us. Right. So, you will not be surprised that exercise typically didn't work that well, unless I actually talked about the opportunities of each of these products, right? In terms of that I actually knew where they could be sold, right? And I knew more about how they would be priced, right? And all of that. So long story short, people buy possibility. They buy them, right? They buy their future self, and they don't buy pressure, all right? So I would like to start with a cool exercise, and some of you may have already done that, but I would love in the chat, or if you can write it down in your journal, right? If you would complete this sentence, sales is, right? What comes to mind? What is the first word that comes to mind? And don't overthink it. And just, if you are here live, type it in the chat and I'll read a couple of them. Sales is, what comes to mind? What do you currently believe about sales? What is sales? Sales is what? So if you can type that in the chat, that would be fantastic. Sales is what? How do you feel about sales? Just fill in the blank, right? Imagine a sentence, sales is, and then a nice blank spot that you can fill in. So please type in the chat. All right. Great. Sales is knowing the needs of your prospect. Awesome. And what do you believe about it? Like, how does it, like if you hear the word sales, what comes up for you, right? Like, so you hear the word sales, okay? So what comes up now, right? If you hear me saying the word sales, sales is what? And please be brutally honest with what comes up, all right? There's no bad answers, right? Sales is, I'm out of here. Okay, good. Put some more in there. Sales is what? Sales is. I'm sure there's many thoughts that you have about sales. Let's get them out of our system, okay? Because this is a very important one. So I'll just wait until we have at least 10 answers.
You want 10 sentences about...
Yes, the 10 answers. Sales is, right? Like we will...
Oh, okay.
Yes, so you can just write as many things in the chat as you can. Sales is okay. What? Like, what do you believe sales is? What comes up? What kind of feelings come up for you? It can be feelings, it can be thoughts. We are looking for thoughts or feelings. All right, in the meantime, I take a sip of water until we have 10 beautiful sentences in the chat. Sales is adding value to a product or service. Okay, great. Sales is often pushy. Sales should be an aligned offer. Sales should be service towards my clients. Awesome, love it. How do you feel about sales? Like, what is that word, the dominant emotion and word that comes up? Sales is what? Try to keep it in 3 words, everyone. Like sales is, and one word. Like, I'm looking for one word. Sales is business. Sales is business. Doing from the heart, being honest in what you sell, the quality aligned. Sales is transaction. Great. So we got quite a few. And what is very important is that, and therefore I want to start with this, because this is what you've heard from me talking about before. It is think, feel, do, and have. Okay? In that sequence. Think, feel, do, and have. Now, most of you are listening to this presentation because you are not satisfied with your results when it comes to your business or your sales, right? Like, maybe you're not making enough offers, or maybe the offers that you make are landing on deaf ears, or maybe your own internal confidence is actually preventing you from making any offers. Maybe you're not charging anything for your services right now. And a lot of these things have to do with what we think about ourselves, or about our ability to sell, or about sales overall, right? So if we want to change our results, so if we want to change the have, we want to start with our thoughts, because they determine how we feel. Now, confidence is a feeling. Would you agree that confidence is a feeling, yes or no? Right? Confidence is a feeling. It's feeling a certain feeling about yourself, and it's often related with self-worth and all of that. Right? Confidence. Now, what is a thought around sales that would make me feel not confident? So please put that in the chat. What is a thought that if my outcome is that I want to be not confident, what is a thought that I need to have in order to create that feeling? Right? Please put that in the chat. What is a thought that I need to think in order to feel shaky or uncertain, not confident? Right? Like, what is a thought that I actually need to think in order to generate that feeling? I need to feel that I'm not good enough, right? So literally a thought that could be like, oh, why am I struggling with this? Why is this so hard for me? Why does this feel uncomfortable, right? For example, why does this feel uncomfortable? Why do I feel not ready? Right? Yeah, because if you literally tell yourself, if you think like I'm not ready, you will feel not ready. And because you will feel not ready, guess what the client will do? Because that's the third step, right? The do. If you don't feel ready, the client will not feel ready to do business with you. Okay? So what will you have? You will have either a client that is not moving, so they are not buying, or you basically stop with the invitation. And that's what I see a lot of entrepreneurs. They are stopping themselves in their tracks of making the actual invitation, doing the ask. So it's nice, it's talking about like, hey, where are you right now? Where do you want to go? What's been stopping you and all of that? That's all great. That feels quite natural. But then a moment where they actually get to share that they have the solution, they stop. Right? And that is just because of the feeling. And the feeling is preceded by a thought. It's as simple as that. So when we know that next time, we can consciously equip ourselves with thoughts that create a different feeling. Right? So what is a thought that we can put in our heads and we can condition that would make us feel like we cannot wait to present something to our ideal clients? Like, what is a thought that we can think instead? So can you put that in the chat? Like, what's a thought that would make you so excited to pitch your coaching offer? What is a thought that you can think that will make you really excited? That's like, yes, I cannot wait to talk. Yeah, I love my product, right? Like, I love this, right? Like, it's so valuable. So it's something like even a thought like this is going to change their life. I have something, I'm sitting on something that is going to change and transform their lives. If you come with that energy, you will feel excited to share. So it's actually much better to pace yourself, right? Because there's also a downside of being excited, because some people don't listen when they're excited. How many of you have come across these people that are very excited, but they don't listen, right? So we don't want to be that person, but would much rather come up with some pretty badass energy in order to, right? Like, so here, if like the evaluations and testimonials I got so far. So it's like I've already touched so many lives. I've already touched lives. They're raving about transformation. So that's creating some confidence, is by actually seeing, and therefore it's so important to make a sale, because if it's your first one, you will not know what you can do for others. So therefore, like, it's so important to actually really do the ask, right? So it's think, feel, do, have. And whenever you know that, then this is the most important thing that I will share in this entire presentation. And I know many of you know this intellectually, but whenever you feel a certain way and then your body language is going to tell how you feel. The client will start to feel the same. If you're in a low energy and you're uncertain, the client will pick that up. And again, they will not move. So if you want to have different results, you need to prime yourself, you need to prepare yourself to be in the best possible state and expect a certain result. And that's something you can train. And it's not fake, because it's something like you can expect a positive outcome. Right? And if the client is aligned and if they have the problem that you can help solve, it is really not that complicated to actually ask for the sale and do the invitation. And we'll get to that as well. Is this useful so far? Let me just, stop here for a second. All right. So sales, I've heard this before, when sales is, some people said like words like sleazy, right? Like, so this is something that came up in one of the last conversations around this. And we really want to get out of this car salesman kind of thing, right? So the old story that a lot of people tell themselves, right? We all know old story about ourselves, but also about sales and the beliefs, right? A lot of people think about sales as manipulation or pressure, right? So the thought that is being put in somebody's head is like, okay, this manipulation or pressure. So therefore, instinctively, you do not want to be like that kind of person. So if you identify yourself as a good person, right, an impactful person, somebody that wants to make a difference, and in your head you have a story around sales is manipulation or pressure or sleazy, what you will do is subconsciously you will sabotage yourself because you want to stay consistent with your identity. So literally your beliefs around sales are going to sabotage your ability to make sales. Does that make sense? Right? So therefore this is so important. Right? So what if you change that for yourself? And the truth is that real sales, especially for coaches and knowledge-based entrepreneurs, and you've heard it before, it is service, because it is serving someone and helping someone from moving towards a future that they want. We are not going to sell something that they don't want. Right? Like if we sell something that they don't want, that doesn't make sense, right? Because that will bite us in the butt at some point, right? We need to first confirm what somebody wants. And if we know that we can help them to get what they want, like we can offer the thing that will help them, right? And it's a logical step to do, right? So a yes is a vote, and I personally like this. So everything that you see here, right? Like this presentation is beautifully done through AI, right? It's beautiful made through AI. So I just deleted the nice logo from the AI app that was there, watermarked, right? So it's beautifully designed by AI. What AI has not done is they did not come up with the content for this, all right? So when I shared that how I created this presentation is I literally walked outside and I thought back of, okay, what in the 18 years of being in sales, what are the things that like made the biggest difference for me? Like what are the things that I felt are most important, right? And I talked in ChatGPT. I shared, probably for about 45 minutes to an hour, okay? So I shared all the steps and the content, okay? So what I've then done is this presentation is an expression of everything that came up, and it's being built in a structural way, all right? Does that make sense, right? Can you easily do the same as well? Absolutely, right? So that's the beauty, because otherwise, like some people like to see something, right? So this is just an extra thing for those of you who are here live. So when we know that sales is service, it's all about helping people move forward towards their dreams. And I like this picture. It's about a gift, okay? It is one of the things that I'm always, I'm actually really excited about. Whenever you sell someone on your offer, in the majority of the cases, they really thank you. They are very excited and they thank you for the opportunity. And that always feels a little bit weird because you're like, yeah, I have to thank you. Like you are, swiping your card. You are like paying me. But as a matter of fact, is somebody's thanking them because you are helping them to cross the bridge to investing in themselves and in their future self. So they actually they make a big leap of faith, and you're helping them to be courageous. You're helping them to see what's possible for them and to actually take action and to have a temporary pain of putting their card in, right? But you're helping them to, it's really gratitude because they can see the transformation, right? And that's just an awesome feeling. I always love that because it's like, yes, it feels so good for that moment is one of my favorite moments because I know that their life is going to change because they choose them, right? And I'm just here and I feel privileged to be the person to be supporting, but it's always them that they think about. They don't think about you when they're making the decision. They think about themselves and their future version. Does that make sense, right? Whenever people think, they always think about themselves, right? So don't make it about you, right? Like I this. No, right? It's about them. And yeah, as I said, like you're helping someone solve a real problem and step towards their dreams with clarity and with the support. Because if you're a coach, like you are actually there in their corner. And to me, it's one of the most premium and the most beautiful ways to support someone is to be in their corner, especially one-on-one, because they will, in most cases, they will trust their heart and everything to you and their deepest fears and desires and bottlenecks and things that they will not have shared with even their family or the closest friends, right? So therefore, it's such a safe space, and therefore it's so important to sell from the heart, because it's really not about these hard, tangible outcomes. It's about the softer things often that make the biggest difference, right? And a lot of people will tell you like, okay, be very specific and everything. And yes, there's value, especially for the logical buyers and the brains, but often they buy from emotion. Now, why are the people like Tony Robbins and Dean Graziosi and Brendon Burchard, and why are these people so good at sales? Because they get people in a state where they are more courageous, and they literally are in a state which is often not their current self, because it's an elevated state. And from an elevated state, people make easier these kind of decisions rather than from a scared state or a fearful state and a scarcity state, right? So that's really one of the core things, and I think not a lot of people realize that there is a science around getting people into a place where they see what's possible. Because if people see what's possible, they can then see that, like, it's actually, they literally see that it's possible for them. And then the only thing that is making sure that they will get there is that they have a guide, and you happen to be in front of them as the most logical next step. And your program can be positioned as the most logical next step, right? So I'm trying to make it super simple, but is this helpful? Does it right? Because it's really that simple. But it starts with the thoughts, the feelings, and then the doing becomes a lot easier if you get yourself in that state, because it really starts with you, right? It's not only the client that you want to have in the future positive state, but it's absolutely also yourself, all right? And here's the thing: without you, often people stay stuck, right? And if they don't meet you and they don't invest in your program, what is the alternative? I always ask, I love to ask when people are not ready to commit or to invest, what is the alternative, right? What is the alternative? What will they do instead? And that is so important, because if they know that if they don't do anything else, like they will stay stuck in their current situation, right? And it's as hard as that. Your guidance is the bridge that they have been looking for, right? And if it's not your bridge, then somebody else needs to give that bridge and ask them the questions like, okay, what's your bridge? Like, how do you, if it's not me, how do you get to where you want to go? And that will really get them to think about, okay, they've told you what they want. They've told you why they want that. Right? And then it doesn't make sense to the brain to suddenly turn back and say, yeah, it's not really what I want anymore. Right? So there needs to be some kind of action towards the attainment of the thing that they want. And again, it's not pressure. It's literally your level of caring. If your program is not within the resources that they have, offer something small, like a PDF or some tips, like leave them with some specific tips, like, okay, maybe it's not yet for you right now, or like, but I would love to give you maybe 2 specific things to do right now in order to get started on this journey. Would that be all right for you? And then they will not feel, and I really want to have stressed this, how many of you have ever felt bad at the end of a discovery call that you had with somebody because you didn't invest and they made you feel bad? Like, how many of you have ever been there, right? Now, does that make you more or less inclined to buy from that person in the future? A more is like thumbs up and less is thumbs down, right? A thumbs down, absolutely. But what if that person would have given you a couple of steps and would have said to you, now, like, it's totally all right, right? It's not for everyone right now, that's fine. But based on everything that you shared, what you want, like, these are the 2 most aligned steps that I would think that would work for you right now. Or they would have asked you, what are the 2 most aligned ways, or where else can you get that? And you would have answered, and you've given your answers to yourself. Like, that would have produced a radically different emotion. And then if you have that positive feeling at the end of the call, and you have the money, because in the world, like in Brooke Sears, my business partner, we have a program called the Lifestyle Entrepreneur. Some of you are here within the program, and it's a 12-month program that is supporting people where they are and helping them to build a lifestyle business step by step. And what we often notice is that people that, like, it's an investment for individuals. And sometimes we have clients who a year ago, they had like literally, they could not even invest in a $27 course. But suddenly they are in a $5,000 program. Now, what has changed? They haven't changed in terms of like their being, like it's still the same person, but their circumstances have changed. And we don't get to decide who has the money to invest in our programs and who hasn't. Literally, somebody could win the lottery tomorrow and they could pay for your program. But somebody could also sell their knowledge and get a client, a $10,000 client, and they can invest in your program. Or somebody could be resourceful and find a way to get the resources. They can borrow money from the bank and all of that. And there's so many sales trainers that are going to tell you, like, you know, like, don't waste your time talking to people that don't have money, right? But who are we to say, like, oh, you know, that person looks like they don't have the money? Or you brush off some people because you think they cannot invest in your program? Or maybe you have, if you're just starting out, you have like 100 different calendar questions on your Calendly, and based on the answers of the questions, you reject every sales call, right? At the beginning, we want to speak to, this is my conviction, we want to speak to as many people as possible. Because here's the thing, we want to help as many people as possible. And if you really help these people, they will remember you. And there will be a time where a number of these people will invest in your program because you were the only one that already believed in them, even if they didn't have the money. Right? So you may be surprised, and this is based on our experience. You will be surprised that some people will find a way. Right? And that's because you have believed in them, but you help them, most importantly, you help them to believe in themselves. And they found a way, and your name is the first person that comes to mind when they have the money to invest. Right? So don't brush off people too easily because of a question that they answer in your, right? I've had a couple of people, like literally in the past, I had some questions like, do you currently have funds to invest in a program like this? Some people said, no, I don't. Then I still took a sales call, a discovery call, and they signed up. Even though in the question they said, I don't have the money. Guess what? Not everybody wants you to know that they have money to invest in your program. Guess what? Right? So, right, like, just take the freaking call. Why not? Like, what do you have to lose? Talking to people is the single biggest needle mover that you can do in your business, talking to real people. Right? But yet, too many people that are starting out are like, yeah, they're overthinking it. They're like, yeah, will I waste? But guess what? Like, if the first 5 minutes of a sales conversation, if you don't feel any alignment, you can end the call. You can, like, literally, you don't have to, nobody's forcing you to be with that person for 45 minutes. If there's really no alignment, I've had cases where I said, like, hey, I want to be, do you mind if I'm very honest with you and very straight up? I think based on everything that you've shared, I don't think I'm the right person to help you. Right? And they actually appreciate that because nobody wants to be sold something that they don't need, or maybe you're not the right guide. And if you know somebody else that can serve them better, then refer them. Right? So, your best clients, this is actually what we've just been talking about. When I was living in Hong Kong and I was in the homeware company, and I was responsible for that region, one of my best clients was actually a distributor from Mongolia. Most people don't even know that that's a country. Right? They think that is part of China. There's a province in China that's called Inner Mongolia, but that's a province, right? But there's a country called Mongolia. And the distributor from there, like, they did really well for us. So therefore, don't always, and one of my best clients, in terms of let me rephrase it. One of the clients who has invested the most with me is actually from Kenya, right? So people can come from unexpected places, right? So never judge a book by its cover. That is so important, right? Your best customers can, and I have example after example. But when I was in a trade fair in Germany, there was a guy who looked like he had he shouldn't be on that booth, right? He was looking quite shabby, right? And like, I could have kicked him out. But it appeared to be one of the biggest potential clients, right? Again, never judge a book by its cover, right? And also on social media, you never know who's watching you or evaluating you as a guide. Many people may appear quiet. They may not respond to every single of your posts. Right? They may not even show that much interest in what you have to offer at first. Maybe you've had a call and they were lukewarm, but maybe you were already in the consideration set, meaning that you were one of the coaches that they've considered to work with. Right? People are always evaluating your authenticity, your presence, and your heart. So show up fully always. right? And people will remember how you make them feel, right? We all know that. People may remember, so don't go play the long game, not the short, aggressive sales way, okay? Long game. Build relationships, right? Generally care. If you catch yourself not really caring and just trying to make a sale, like you're not aligned, right? So get back in your heart and ask yourself, like, why am I trying to make a sale? Like, and ask yourself, like, what's great about that person? What do I love about the person? If you ask yourself that, that's the thought again. You think that thought, you will feel a lot different, right? So the person can feel that, and if you think about what's great about that person, that energy changes and they will feel your heart, and there's a connection, right? So I've developed a model which is called the Aligned Sales Method. And this will give you a structural way to actually look at this, because this is a lot of, like, I've shared a lot of different things, and we'll get into the hot seats in a moment. But I want to outline what you can specifically do, all right? So the first A in the Aligned Method stands for arrive and align, okay? So see this as a way that you can create a sales conversation. So this is a model that you can use to structure your discovery call or your sales conversations. That's what it is. Is it useful if we look at a model that actually gives you a structure for a sales conversation? Is that useful if we would do that? Yeah. So we first want to start with creating safety. And I always love to start with like that, hey, I'm not here to push anything to you. I'm not here to sell you something that you do not want, right? What I'm here for you today, like, this is your time, and I would really like to understand where you are right now and what you really want and what has been stopping you. So this time is my gift to you. Now, if towards the end of this session, you feel like you like what we have been doing, and you feel like you feel inspired that I could help you to do the thing that you want to do, I would be happy to talk about the program that I have. But we may not end there. Maybe it's not a fit, and that's okay, right? So how does that feel to you if I open up and share that? Like, does that feel inviting and warm, right? People are expecting to be sold to in a discovery call, right? People are intelligent. They're expecting that. So you could build a rapport, and you could say, like, this is what's going to happen. You want to create the safety, but also you want to introduce yourself as the guide. So you open the conversation like a guide and not a sales person, okay? That is important. You could say, like, hey, you could repeat your name. You could repeat who you help and what you help with and why you're qualified to do a call like that. The same as how I started with this presentation. I started sharing that I have 18 plus years in sales, that I've worked on almost every continent, right? In a lot of different places, in different currencies, right? All of that. So I know a couple of things about sales. Now, if I share that, does that increase your willingness to listen to me? Yes or no? Is that up or down? Right? If I share that, it's like, okay, right? It's up. So this is how you can open. So you start with helping them to arrive, to land, and to align with them. You first want to align. You want to give them a safe space to warm up. If you feel that something is off, you could let people land, right? If there's immediately tension, there's no point in immediately starting like aggressively. We could literally say, like, hey, you know, like, do you, like, you could ask literally some questions around that. Like, would it be worth to do a quick breathing exercise? to just land because it feels like you have a lot going on today, right now. Right? And some people will say like, yeah, absolutely. Right? If somebody just has had a fight with their spouse, do you think they will quickly invest in your program? Yes or no? They're not in the right state. So you want to align first and then redirect. All right? And then the L stands for listen to their truth. So we want people to express, and you want to get the real situation where they're right now. Right? So first you start with making them feel at ease, right? And in safe space. And then you want to ask literally, where are you right now? And should it be worse than it is? It shouldn't be much better. They shouldn't be hiding what's really going on. But you help them understand like where they're really at with this specific thing. And then we also ask like, what have you tried so far? What has worked and what hasn't worked for you? And again, we create connection through presence. And this is about observing. And you don't immediately want to troubleshoot. Some coaches, they immediately talk about themselves. It's like, okay, the client opens up and they say like, oh yeah, I'm not really believing in myself. They're like, yeah, no, I had that, I had that before as well, and blah, 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 right? They immediately fill up the space. But remember, it's not about you, it's about them. So like, okay, so how has that been showing up in your life, right? What has it been costing you so far, right? All of these kind of things. The I stands for illuminate their vision. It's so powerful when we say out loud what we want. And a lot of people can produce very easily what they do not want. What we want people to share with us is what they really want. Right? We want to get them in a state where they see the possibility and not necessarily the problem. The problem at the beginning is for you to understand where they're right now, what is their mental space, where they're right now, what are the problems, and get a feel about if you can solve them or if they actually qualify to come in your program. Because some people, they have like, maybe they need a therapist, not a coach, right? They have really problems that like, maybe we don't want to get there, right? And maybe coaching is not the right modality for them, right? It's not for everyone, right? And in some cases, maybe they just want to have a quick fix and they don't need coaching, but they need mentoring. They just need to be told what to do. And then do you want to be that kind of person, or maybe you don't feel comfortable with that, right? So get specific. What would ideal look like? Ask them to paint a more vivid picture. What it all does is it helps them to really get more excited about what they're going, and that will increase the likelihood of them investing in your program. Because literally their state changes. They think better thoughts. They see things. So their feelings, they get in a different state. So they will behave differently and they will be more courageous. So the action, when you ask them to make a difficult decision, they will be more inclined to do that. Right? So you don't have to really look at every question like that, or like what opens up when this problem is solved. Like it's more about coming up with your aligned questions, right? So don't take everything literal. Just look at the general concept. How can you in your conversations illuminate their vision? What are some questions that you can ask or that feels comfortable to you, and how would you like to be asked these questions? Because that's often the most aligned. It's like, what is your language? One of the things that when I was actually preparing for this session, one of the things that like, and sometimes it's really great because when we are doing this, I remembered like some big lessons because I wasn't even aware of some of these things. But I was like, one of the biggest things for me was that I don't believe in scripts. I don't believe in scripts. There's a lot of sales trainers that will tell you, like, you need to say this at this specific time. Now, if you're super advanced, it may like make a difference. But if you're starting out, if you stick to the script, people will feel that it's scripted. It's not you. So people buy a vision, they buy your level of caring, they buy a guide who can help them, that they believe in, that they believe can help them close the gap. So when first we have made them feel comfortable, then we have asked them where they are, right? And then we get them to paint a picture of where they're going. And then we look at what's been stopping them. Like, what is the gap? Like, why hasn't this happened yet? Right? Like, that's one of my favorite questions. Like, what's been stopping you? Why hasn't this desired outcome happened yet? And we help them to see the patterns and the blocks they've been blind to. Right? So you want to believe in yourself, and you currently don't believe in yourself. Like, make it very simple. Like, yeah, what's been stopping you? Then people may say, like, yeah, I listen too much to what others say. Or like, I just feel so small every time I look in the mirror. I don't know, whatever people say, right? We get into the mode where what has been stopping them? What do they say? What are the words that they say? Build urgency, right? When somebody sees the gap, they feel the cost of staying stuck. And that creates the urgency to move. Now, here's the thing, like, nobody likes to get their wallet and pay for something. Like, who here enjoys spending money? Raise your hand. Is there anybody that really enjoys spending a lot of money? No, I don't see many hands. Oh, I see. Okay, so that's a different coaching conversation maybe to have, right? But overall, there is a little bit of a pain involved in actually spending because it's costing you something, all right? So overall, see this as a skill, okay? Your coaching program and the wins from there, the gains is one side of the scale, and the money that they pay is the other side of the scale. If there's more pleasure from your coaching program, right? Like, that's part of the scale will win, will come up. But if the pain of the money weighs heavier, the scale turns. And if the scale turns, they will not buy. It's as simple as that. So if you think about the scale, and I always think about what can I do to tilt the scale? So maybe you want to write down that question, because it's a great way to think about this. It's like, how do I tilt the scale? So can you ask more questions? Can you alleviate the pain? Can you magnify the pain a little bit for them to have the understanding that they are not in a great place? Because if they're feeling it a little bit more, they're more inspired to take action. Or can you help them to paint their desired state a bit more vividly? Right? Maybe people are not connected to what they really want. They cannot see it yet. And that's not a good time to sell your coaching program if they don't even know and they cannot see where they're heading. Right? This is all making sense? Okay. So the N stands for navigating their why. Now, I'm a firm believer that even logical buyers, they still are inspired. Like, everybody, and Tony Robbins teaches this, right? Like, we justify with logic. So logical buyers is not that their emotion doesn't play any role. They just justify it a bit stronger with logic, right? But we make decisions. We are emotional creatures. We often make decisions, and there's especially, and this is, this will get me in trouble. But, women take more decisions based on emotion. Therefore, I personally, and I know we have some men in the room as well, right? But, some of my brothers are also more, like, they have some feminine energy, which is awesome. Like, I love to work with women personally because of that they make decisions from emotion a bit more. Because emotion, that creates the motion, right? And whenever you have that, you create an emotion through somebody seeing their desired state and really wanting, like whenever I made a decision, I remember a moment that unleashed the power within was 2017 or 18. I think it was 17. I was in London, and was day 4. Joseph McClendon was actually there, and we had already been pitched a 10,000 euro program before, and I had no intention whatsoever to get into that, into the mastery program, all right? And I remember it was day 4, and we had this meditation, and for the first time I could feel and see, and I got hungry about wanting something else. I suddenly wanted more. And the first 3 days, that emotion was not invoked. There was like that light was not sparked. So I wasn't even thinking about investing. And as a matter of fact, it was very uncomfortable because I remember like I felt nauseous making that kind of investment at that time, because I had never in my life made such a big investment before. And then I walked to the back of the room and I swiped my credit card on day 4. And that was only because there something changed and I could see my desired state. So therefore, people make decisions based on emotion and how they feel, right? And how they feel about themselves and about you as their guide. And you can make it much more complex, or you could say like, hey, these are the most important things. So let me focus on helping them to feel really good about what they can do and about me as their guide, and having a great plan. And your plan needs to cover the logical part. So your plan involves, what is the name of the program? What is the investment? Like, what are the stages? What are they getting? Right? Like these things you need to be able to articulate in a relatively short amount of time. And I think that's where some of us struggle with, because we ramble on about what we can do and then people lose track. But it's like, okay, in this program, I can help you to achieve the thing that you want, right? Because they've just told you what they want, right? The way we do that is we start here, then we do this, then we do this, and we end with this, so that you can get that result, right? Now, how does that sound? Does that sound like something that that you would love? Yeah, absolutely. All right. So would you like to know how much it is, right? Or what the investment is if you haven't shared that, right? So that's the plan, right? And you can listen again to this replay. I just wanted to give everything to you today. I don't want to hold anything back. And again, make this your own. But from my own experience, people don't need 100 different pages or a PDF with all these details. As a matter of fact, I have found the more details you give people, the more likely it is that they don't invest, right? Because then if you give them more details, they will find something that they don't like in there. Or they are like, oh yeah, but I don't need this thing. There's like 100 different things in there and one thing is off, and that could be the reason why they don't invest. Whereas like they need the outcome, right? So when you enroll them through invitation, and you present your offer in their own words, right? So not your own words, but their own words. And that is like, the more you get tuned in and you ask the right questions in the conversation, the more you can tweak your, right, like your program and the outcome in their words, right? So if one person maybe says like, I wanna believe more in myself, the other person would say like, I want more self-confidence, right? But these words, right? Like if you use just the words, the same words, like it's not going to affect them. If they use their words, it's going to make a big difference, right? And you make a logical bridge to the offer. So based on everything you've shared, I really believe that I can help you with this. That's one of my favorite lines because I feel it at that moment. They've told me where they are, what they want to do, what has been stopping them, and I know based on what we teach that I can help them. And then I would be doing them a disservice to hold back and to not share that. Right? So yeah, like I've shared all the other things. Describe the high-level outcome, right? Give that, reflect the desires and aspirations back. Outline the path, like the plan. We've just talked about this, right? And so this is one of the most important things as well. And we've talked about this in quite great length. And I'll speed up a little bit because we're going a little bit over time. But people, you want them to make a decision from a future state. All the sales that I have not made, in I would say 80% of them, people have been fearful because they were stuck in their current identity. All right? And then I don't have the money. I don't have the time. I have to consult my spouse. All the typical objections are coming from a current state because they're like, oh, let me look at my bank balance. I cannot. It's not making sense right now. Whereas we want people to really look at where they want to go and imagine that they are making a decision from that space. Now, I'm still learning to do this better myself, right? So full disclosure, I'm not completely on the other side here. I've been finding that this has been one of my biggest struggles to help people to understand that to make a decision from their future state, right? So just take it from me that this is a very important thing. And whenever you hear, and you can practice and even use some AI with that, you can actually ask ChatGPT to pretend that they are a client, and you can pretend they can ask you questions, right? And throw them objections. And you could ask like, okay, how can I move into that? Help them to understand the future state, right? So play around with that. I'm going to do that even more, right? Most importantly, stay aligned with yourself and don't make people feel that you're just playing tricks, right? It's not like we're not playing games here, right? Like these are real people with real dreams. But sometimes we need to help people a little bit to understand that they are getting somewhere, right? So remember my UPW example? I made a decision from like, hey, I want to get there. I saw myself there. And I'm like, okay, that person actually walked back to the counter and swiped their card, right? All right, so I will go a little bit faster here. You don't want to pressurize, you want to provide clarity, right? So always validate their emotions and things. Like, if they want to speak to their spouse, like I personally don't like to push with these kind of things. I like to say like, I understand that it's important for you to feel aligned and, that these kind of decisions you want to take some time to, to talk about it. So you'll align. And then you can ask some questions like, okay, have you made all the important decisions in the past with your spouse together? Okay, so why is this decision then different, right? If you want to, but I typically, and this is just my own personal feeling, even though I know that some people are not going to buy because of this approach, I personally don't want people to get in trouble themselves for their decisions, right? And I prefer to give them the time to actually make decisions, even though that costs me business. And I have to, and this is just my personal, and it could even be a limiting belief, right? Because I know that the longer you give them, the more likely it is that they will not buy. Okay, so let's say you have had a discovery call and people are like, okay, you know, it sounds really good. And this is a real life situation that I've had, all right? So this sounds really good. I'm actually pretty sure, I'm like 99% sure that I'm going to do this. I just want to, send me the details. I just want to read over it one more time. And then we will wrap it up in a weekend, something like that. Guess what happened that weekend, right? Yeah, you know, I've had another thought, and I don't think it's really like the right time right now. And then try to get back to that excitement again, right? It's very hard to do that. So in the ideal world, you want to seal the deal on the call, like that. That's the ideal world, right? Because the chances of you losing the sale are going to increase if it's not on the. But some people, like they need some time. And if what I always do is if I really feel that somebody needs the time, I will say like, okay, great. Why don't we plan another moment to talk, right? Let's say it's now Friday and the special invitation is valid. Like I will give you a special bonus if you sign up until Monday, right? And then let's do a Zoom call on Monday on that time, right? And we celebrate your move if you are on there. And if you decide to not move forward, like I respect that, but at least we have something in our calendar that helps us to move forward. Because you want to encourage the decision. Nothing is worse than waiting and chasing people for, would you agree that it sucks to be chasing people all the time, right? So we don't want to be the desperate kind of person that is going to, oh, have you thought about it? Like, you know, remember 3 weeks ago we were on Zoom and how are you feeling about it now? Like that is such an energy drain. So one thing I've learned in sales is we want to see this as a traffic light. Okay? Imagine a traffic light. You want to know if it's red, if it's green, or if it's orange. If it's orange, we want to know in which country are we. Because in some countries, it goes from orange to red. In some countries, it goes from orange to green. All right? So if it's orange, we want to understand which direction is it going. And we want to know that as soon as possible, because then we know how to act. Does that make sense? Right? So get some kind of feeling, check in, and get like a specific step, right? So reconnect, return to them, right? And then the closing is, like this is the thing that I've just shared, like send the payment link immediately. Ideally, like, and this requires some practice, but the better you become at this, the more confident you will feel to do this. If you can get them to spend a couple of minutes to get their card and to key in, like you have a link, a payment link, or they can do the transaction at the spot, that is the best possible way, because then you can celebrate their action taking, right? Now again, not everybody will be in that space. So otherwise you could do that in the meantime between then and the next Zoom session that you're scheduling. Right? Send them the link, send them the coaching agreement, and give them the space that they need to complete the transaction. But follow up straight away. Some of the biggest mistakes that I've made in sales is waiting too long to send them the link and the coaching agreement. The longer it takes for you to follow up, the less likely it is that they're going to buy, right? And we've all been there where it's like we had a very warm conversation, And suddenly we get back after a couple of days and they completely ghost us, right? Who has been there before, right? Like that sucks. That's not great. All right, so yeah, this is a little bit more detailed. So it comes down to start with small yeses, right? Get them on a call, get them to download something or send them something, like get a commitment on something, and one commitment leads to the other, right? So summarizing based on everything that we have shared, being more you, being more authentic, being more aligned, it really will work because it shows people that you really care, it gives them real value, and you just need to be one step ahead of someone else.